again welcoming you all for today's Bible study. So, like I was saying earlier, before we came on set proper. We did this couple of Sundays, 2 Sundays ago. Um, the whole issue of um, one of the most, one of the wisest, not even the most wisest man that ever lived, Solomon. He spoke in the book of Ecclesiastes, and he sounded very desperate. In fact, he sounded very defeated. And he starts by saying, "Vanity, all is vanity, vanity of vanity." If you want to know what that means, some of the synonyms for that vanity, some of the synonyms is empty, smoke, futile, short lived, pointless. And he used that word 40 times. Okay. I mean, a whole, 40 times. Let me see if I can just randomly read for you. So when this guy starts, it tells you it's something that is already troubling him. And he says, "The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, vanity of vanities," says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Okay, another word is meaningless. Okay, meaningless, meaningless, says the preacher. Meaningless of meaningless, all is meaningless. What profit has a man from all for all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. And then he goes on into a lot of things. And I would like us to juxtapose this with the story of the rich young ruler. And the story is found in Matthew chapter 19, 16 to 22, also in Mark 10, 17 to 27. Maybe I'll just go ahead and read it for you. Because this young man came to Jesus, and he was so he was so full of confidence. Let's put it that way. He was so full of confidence because he felt he was doing extremely well. It should be Mark chapter 10. Okay. Mark 10, we read from verse 17. So this young man, he's called a rich young ruler, and I think that is telling him. So now, as he was going, verse 17, on the road, one came running near before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life?" So Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but one, and that is God. You know the commandments: do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not defraud, honor your father and mother." Um, and then he says, and he answered and said to him, "Teacher, all these things I've kept from my youth." And Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said, "One thing you lack." And I like that one. "One thing you lack, go your way, sell whatever you have and give it to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. And come take up, the cross and follow me." But he was sad at his word and went away sorrowful, for he had great possession. So just think about it. Rich, that's all what we all want. I mean, rich is good. Any day, rich is good. Um, Young, that means he's full of virality, he's full of energy, he's full of strength and youthful exuberance. I mean, he's all that. I mean, and youth is really good. I mean, youth is really good. You need to be slightly old, and then you realize youth is really good. So he has the strength of youth and all that. Um, and then he's a ruler. Okay, he's a ruler, meaning that he has a position, he has prestige, he has status, um, he has a platform. Um, I mean, those are very good qualities. And even better still, he is a very religious man. He has been keeping the laws from his youth, from when he was very young, and all the way up. And so this young man is a classical what you would want, for somebody. I mean, he's doing well, in every way you look at it, in any way you look at it, he's doing very well. And so when it comes to Jesus, actually, he's very excited, and he says, "Look, I mean, I've done all these things, and all that." And Jesus tells him, "There is one thing which you lack." Okay, and he leaves, very unhappy. Now, I'll I'll tell you why. I would like us to compare this, story, the parable of the story of the rich young ruler with Solomon. Solomon is a man who says that God gave him a lot of riches. If you read chapter 1 all the way to verse 9, verse 1 to verse 9, he says God gave him concubines, God gave him wives, God gave him the best wines, God gave him the best food, God gave him servants, God gave him people to serve him. And he said, "Look, I got it all. I mean, I have anything that my heart would wish for." And he still talks about vanity and everything else. And let me put it this way: sometimes, oftentimes, we feel this tinge of frustration, and especially if you live life in a manner which all of us, I'm sure, you encounter two sides of life. You encounter the good side of life, and then you also encounter some very bad side of life, and it always happens. Okay, you encounter, for example, a marriage, and then you encounter a burial, or you encounter um, a birth and a burial. Okay, and all in a day's work, if you can call it that way. Okay, you see a lot of good. You drive, like for example, now I was somewhere, and I had to go through some parts of Nairobi where there's a lot of squalor, there's a lot of poverty and all, and I spent my day there. But not too far from there, there is very beautiful houses, another very different community, and you see a lot of good cars, and you see a lot of clean people walking. Not they're not so many, but at least walking on very nice lawn, very well done on the side of the road, and all that and all that. You see children riding horses and what have you. Um, and sometimes when you take time to think through this, you are tempted to go to that place where the preacher, Solomon, the wise man, got to. When he looked at all these things, he looked at wealth, he looked at poverty, he looked at knowledge, he looked at ignorance, he looked at so many things. He felt very compelled to write the words which many times, to be very honest, we don't preach a lot on Ecclesiastes. It's difficult to even wrap our minds around some of the things which he says. And he says a lot of things. And I'll be encouraging us to read Ecclesiastes. But for me, I think it is a massive attempt to look realistically at life. Okay? Just look at a very realistically at life. Without how can I put this? In a very dispassionate way. Just look at life without the spiritualizing it, without the lenses of spiritual, all that. Just look at life, and you begin to realize there's a way in which the things which we hold very strongly in life and about life are so futile, and are so short lived, they are so capricious, they are fickle. Somewhere else in the book of James, he says, "For what is your life?" And then he answers that and he says, Is it not but a vapor?" And he makes a very big attempt to explain himself, which, again, I would encourage us to look at it. The beauty about the writings of Solomon is that he tries to proffer some solutions. Okay, for example, after telling us everything is futile, and how everything is meaningless, he proffers some solutions. You know, for example, in chapter 3, I'll read verse 12. He says, I know that nothing is better for them to rejoice and to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing can be taken from it. God does it, that men should fear before Him. If you read verse 22, and I'm jumping, I'm just skipping a few so that I can go to just point to a few. So I perceive that nothing is better than a man should rejoice in his own works. Okay, for that is his heritage, that is his inheritance. For what? Who can bring him to see what will happen after him? So Solomon is telling us there are certain things which we can be happy about, and we can highlight about life, including and not limited to um, the works of a man. And he puts it very very well. That verse 22, which we just read, he put it very well. Again, let me read it for you again. It says. So I perceive that nothing is better than that a man should rejoice in his own works. Maybe what I can do is look at the same using the MSG, and see how it will render it. 22. Where is it? Okay. So if you start from up there, it says, start from 19. Humans and animals come to the same end. Humans die, animals die. We all breathe the same air. So there's really no advantage in being human. None. Everything is smoke. We all end up in the same place. We all come from dust. We all end up as dust. Very frustrating. You know, I mean, when you read this, I mean, you can feel his frustration. We all come from dust. We all end in dust. Nobody knows for sure that the human spirit rises to heaven, or that the animal spirit sinks to the earth. So I made up my mind that there is nothing better for us, men and women, than to have a good time in whatever we do. That's our lot. Who knows if there's anything else to life? Okay. Again, I'm saying that Solomon is giving us insight, because of course, we've all come through the Christian ranks, and we've been told how everything is makes a lot of sense, and how everything is going to end so nice and rosy. But if you live long enough, like long enough, like we're preaching on Sunday, and or last Thursday we're preaching here on what we're calling the power of a lived experience, and we're saying, I mean, when you live long enough, you begin to realize that life is complex. Things are not things don't always go in the manner which we expect. Things are not always very positive, to be very honest. And so this man says, "Hey, I made up my mind that there's nothing better for us, men and women, than to have a good time in whatever that we do." So the man is saying, love what you do. I remember listening to the late Miles Monroe many years ago, and there's something which he said in passing. He didn't even elaborate it, but it caught my attention up to today. And he said that work is the true definition of a human being. Okay, I mean, it was profound. He said a man is defined by his work. A man is defined by his work. Work is the best expression of who you are. Okay, I read a quote one time, and somebody said, if the sower of the seed, zigzags, okay, when he's planting the seed, of course nobody can tell, because really, the seed is on the ground. But when the seed comes up, it will tell. It will tell. It will tell that he zigzagged, and the lines are not straight. Somewhere else, I read somebody said that when your work speaks for you, don't interrupt, because work speaks a lot about people. Not just the amount of work, which is important, but also the nature or the quality of work which they do, how they do it, how they treat work. It's the best way to tell a person's character, in my view. It's in how they embrace work and how they work. Okay, Okay, and I've come to accept that and believe that very strongly. So here comes Solomon, and he tells us, hey, look, this is your heritage. Work. Of course, a lot of us work to have an income. Other people work. Uh, what can we say? Let's just say a lot of people work for food. People work to have an income. But ideally, we need to work so that our work can communicate who we are. Okay, we need to work as a way to express of who we really are as individuals. Okay, is a truest expression of who we are. So that is Solomon telling us, giving us some insights. Okay, another insight that Solomon gives us, and there are quite a few. um if you read chapter 4 verse 13, another insight that he gives us on some of what you may call the quick wins. Okay, things we can emphasize on, um, what you may call the low-hanging fruits of life. Okay, um, if you read verse 13 of chapter 4, which I'm going to read for you, it says, "A poor child with some wisdom is better off than an old but foolish king who doesn't know which end is up. I saw youth just like this start with nothing and go from rags to riches. And I saw everyone rally to the rule of this young successor to the king. Even so, the excitement died quickly. The throngs of people soon lost interest. Can't you see it's only smoke and spitting into the wind?" Okay, and he's talking about something which, again, we have had occasion to see. People rise and go very far. Okay, in terms of status and everything else, and then like he says, it comes and then it goes. There's another verse which I'm looking for, um, or maybe the version I'm looking from, it's rendering differently. Okay, better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king who will not be admonished. Okay, and then he goes on, for out of prison he cometh to reigns, and then it goes on and goes on and goes on. Okay, I think I've seen the verse I was looking for. Sorry, chapter 4, verse 6. Okay, I'll go back to use the. I'll go back and use the MSG. It says, "One handful of peaceful repose is better than two fistfuls of worried work. More spitting to the wind." More spitting to the wind just simply means vanity and vanity. Okay. If you look at the same using the, um, let's use which version? Let's use NIV. NIV is a good translation of the same. It says, that is 4:6. Better one handful with tranquility. Better one handful with tranquility, peace. Tranquility is peace, and calmness and quiet. Okay, just a handful, something little. Okay, than two handful with toil and chasing after the wind. Okay, and so what is Solomon doing? He's telling us that we need to value peace, value calm. If you spend time, following some of the stuff that goes on online, there's a lot of conversations on marriage and what men want, what women want. But I think slowly it's beginning to become it's almost um, like an accepted norm now, that people are saying, we want peace. Either it's men or women, we want a relationship that you know puts me in a place of peace. We don't want drama. We don't want every single day to be on a war zone, and we are competing and all that. And I'm noticing a lot of almost like a concurrence, people kind of agreeing that everybody is saying, let me fight out there, let me fight at my workplace, let me fight, out there in the streets, but let me come to my little home and let me find peace. Okay. And the Bible has a lot to say about peace. It talks about peace guarding our hearts and minds. It's almost telling us that without peace, our minds are exposed. You know, Great peace have they which love your law. Perfect peace, and then it uses all manner of ways to express about peace. And Solomon is telling us, hey, look, whatever you do, either you make money, you don't make money, it is better that at the end of the day, one of the biggest dividends you can be able to, after you've done all your, things you've checked, done your stock check, taking, you say, at least I've got peace. At least I've got peace. I don't know if people value or appreciate the importance, for example, of having a spouse who gives you peace. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we need to talk to people who are in a relationship, and there are very many, they're probably the majority, who are in relationships that are full of tempest and turmoil and drama and people throwing tantrums and people who are always controlling and toxic and all of you. It is terrible. I mean, it is really, really, really terrible. I mean, we've seen even divorces of very wealthy people, in the last couple of months, and people just walk away from all those things and they don't look back. We've seen people walk away from jobs which were well paying and they don't look back because peace is such an important premium, okay, that it cannot be in any way be sacrificed for anything. So that's what the man says. Let's read further. That is chapter 4, verse 6. If you read verse 8, it says, there was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. In other words, relationships. Okay? For whom am I toiling? He asked. Why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. Okay? And then it says, two are better than one. They have a good return for their labor. If they fall, one will lift the other. And all this, and then it says, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help him up. If two lie together, they will keep each other warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Okay? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. So what this man is telling us, and this is very important, it's the importance of relationships. Okay? I remember sharing many years ago, and I gave this example. I said, look, what if you were given everything? You're told, look, we'll give you the best car, we'll give you the best house, we'll give you the best of everything. Okay? Give you the best of everything. The only catch is that you should enjoy it alone. Okay? If it's a car, drive alone. If it's eating good food in a restaurant, don't go with anybody. Before long you won't want it because we are social beings and we are born for relationships. We are wired for relationships. Let's put it that way. Okay. And so I want to put it this way: let's treasure meaningful relationships, not just relationships, meaningful relationships. And I think there's always one person, two people, 10 people, like I was saying last Thursday, whose eyes light up when they see you coming, who treat you like a priority, not like an option. There's always somebody there. It could be a child, it could be a wife or a husband, it could be whatever and whoever. But we need to treasure meaningful relationships. And when we find them, we should, what's the word? Kuzilimia, just kind of make sure that they are guarded at the same time. They are very well, are protected and taken care of, so that they do not, they're not abused, and in the long run, they are not, we don't destroy them. Okay, so that is chapter 4, reading all the way to verse 12, and then now the verse 13, which we were reading earlier. He talks about the poor man, better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to heed warning. And then he talks about the whole importance of being teachable, which I think it is very important. The thing which I find when reading this wonderful book is the whole issue of appreciating what you may call simple graces, simple graces, for lack of a better word, simple pleasures that are found in life. Okay, if you read chapter 1, um, just see if we can go back to chapter 1, then you read verse 3. Um, no, I got that one wrong. Let me see. Um, it's somewhere in my notes. I'm going to get it for you. But it is at one particular point when this man is talking about to enjoy, for example, the little that God gives us in terms of food, you know, eating and drinking and working and relating, all those things. Okay, all those things. I think I'm going to find it. Should be in chapter 5 somewhere. Um, I'll get it as I move on. Okay, let's see if we can get in chapter 5, and it begins very well. If you read chapter 5, it says, um, sorry, just go to chapter 6. He says, I have seen another evil under the sun. It weighs heavily on mankind. God gives some people wealth, possession, honor, so that they lack nothing in their heart's desire. But God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers enjoy them instead. This is meaningless and a grievous evil. Okay? A man may have 100 children and live many years, yet no matter how long he lives, if he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive proper burial, I say that a stillborn child is better than he. Okay, okay. So again, he's bringing the issue, like I mentioned earlier, of the simple pleasures of life. Um, the Englishmen say we need to stop and smell the roses. Sometimes we're very we always up and about the hustle and bustle, like we call it, doing what we need to do, and that we forget that there are some beautiful, I mean, the laughter of a child. Sometimes just nature, just looking at nature, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And sometimes we just need to stop and enjoy the things which God has given us and the people who God has given to us, and just, those simple pleasures of life. Okay. The eating and drinking and the sharing and loving and if you're Jama, the relationships and the bromances, if you're a lady, the same relationships and all that, all these things become very important. So back to back to the rich young ruler. He has everything that one's heart would desire, but he misses the most important thing. Okay. There's a gentleman called Bishop Oyedepo. You all know him. He said something very powerful one time. He said, the gold you cannot give or let go, the gold you can't let go, the gold that you can't let go has become your God. Okay. The gold you can't give, okay, has become your God. And what this young man had was religion. He had piety. He had, he had this, religious practice where he followed, he followed strictly some codes and don't do this and don't do the other. But of course, no relationship. When it came to money, that was a no go zone. It is what I've been calling, before. I've been saying that when you come to the Word of God, you can't and we cannot have what you call a buffet approach. A buffet, when you're enjoying a buffet, you pick here, you jump that, you pick that, you jump that, you take some melon, you jump maybe the oranges, you pick some banana, you jump something else. When it comes to God, we take it all. We take it, So he had done so well. And here is Jesus telling him, hey, look, there is one thing which you lack. Okay. And actually, what you lack is very, very important. It clearly, your money and your wealth has become your God. And this is what always happens when we have a God outside of the living God. Either that God is material or job, whatever it is, God makes it, and it become oh, what's the word? It never satisfies. And that's what you see in Ecclesiastes. It becomes like a bottomless pit. You never get enough. And that's what we were reading earlier. You never get enough of those things. I like one man of God who said, when we exchange the gift, from the giver of the gift, who is God, then God removes the destination from the journey. So the journey becomes perpetual without a destination. It becomes a chasing after the wind, like the man says. That's what we've been reading. It becomes a chasing after the wind. It's like chasing a horizon. Chasing a horizon. You see it, there, but the closer you think you've gotten, you see another horizon. So it becomes a very futile, toil, futile toil, very frustrating, like the one which we see, in Ecclesiastes. Why? Because God has been removed from the center, and that's why, even up to the point where this man is finishing, this issue of meaningless, and everything is meaningless. Hear what he says as I finish. He says, of making books there is no end, and much studies where is the body. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. It's that simple. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. And I like the way that word is put there. You know, the word is duty. It's not like something which we do because we like, or we no, it's not like something we do because it's pleasurable, or we're feeling passionate about it. No. The duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. Then it says, for God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. So I like that bit and the way this man ends this. I mean, clearly he was a wise man. So he has looked at all those things which are very difficult to uh, decipher, to decode. Life is so complex, things are so sophisticated. You think you have it, then you don't have it. You think you know why this exists, and then you realize it. You really didn't. There's an exception to the rule, and he has come through all that confusion and everything else. And he says, look, ultimately, this is what matters. Enthrone God. Enthrone God in your life. Enthrone God in your affairs. Give him preeminence. Give him precedence. Let him be the overall of your life. Period. That's how he put it, and I can't put it any better. Because when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, which I would encourage you to, it has this almost depressing tinge to it. So you have this man who thinks he's got it. He thought maybe it's with having many wives, it's having a lot of money, it's having wisdom, it's having servants, it's having the best foods, it's having all these things. And then he says, no, I mean, all these things I have them, and I've had them, and I'm still very unhappy. I'm still not satisfied. And for me, and even the way I would like to end this, even as I encourage just to read the book, is enthrone God. Let him, in all seriousness, let him be Lord. We normally say he's Lord, but in all seriousness, let him be Lord. And not just in word, in deed, because there's something about that is sweet, that is satisfying. I can't remember who said this, but one of those preachers of old, he said, inside the soul of a human being, there is a God-shaped vacuum. And I like that. He says, there is a God-shaped vacuum. Only God can fill it, because that vacuum is the shape of God. Only God can fill it. And I agree, 100% agree. Um, there are so many things. I mean, and we've all been around and we've seen it. We've seen people who did very well. I was listening to some comedian, make a joke about this guy. He very big on TV. I think it's called John Bourdain. I forget his name. Very serious guy on TV. He used to do so many programs on food, and I think he was on CNN. And then he went to some place in Russia. Anthony Bourdain, sorry, Anthony Bourdain. I needed to find out, and had everything. I mean, the guy had everything, and committed suicide, you know, committed suicide, It's called, if you look at, this is celebrity chef, Anthony Bourdain, you know, and he was in a hotel in, really, 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 the man hanged himself. I mean, and that's really brutal, to when somebody hangs themselves, that is really, really brutal. I mean, people really cannot, and I have something here written, his final text before death said, I hate being famous. I hate being famous. Okay. They say he struggled with fame and all that. I mean, and you're wondering, I mean, this is what people want. You want to dine with kings and with who is who, which is what this man used to do. And he was big in his trade. He was big in his line. Everything about him was just great. And we've seen it. We've seen it. I mean, we've seen it. There's this other gentleman. I forget his name now. One of very, very good comedian. He has done a couple of movies, including it was called Miss Who. What's the name of this guy who did I forget his name. One of the best comedians. He also did the same thing, committed suicide. I mean, at the height of his career. Okay, he made everybody laugh, but he was a very sad person. Huh? Doubtfire. He did a movie called Doubtfire. I think I can find. Um, can I find? Yeah, it's called Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, the author is what's his name here? Oh, okay. It won an Academy Award on one area. Robin Williams, sorry, Robin Williams. I kept you very famous name. It left my mind. Uh, Same thing again, and we can go on and go on. And this is just an indication of, you know, we imagine strength in people, and reminding us again. I mean, and I need to say this in finishing, the important role that God plays in every human life. God anchors us. God anchors, an anchor like the way the anchor, puts a ship, it can't move, really, stabilizes a ship, it doesn't move. God anchors us. God anchors. If not, we will be in this spiral thing, I know myself, I think a lot on many things, and it's very easy for me to get into some of those kind of, because I like prodding and questioning and all that. But God anchors us, somewhere along the way, even with all the questions, you are able to look back and say, hey, look, I am okay to know that God knows. I'm okay to know that I may not know, but God knows. And I'm okay with it. If God knows, if God knows my future, if God knows the end of, whatever, I'm okay with it. And I can't take matters into my hands because really, I've put them in his hands. And so I'm just saying this to encourage us, and we've seen this. Earlier, we were talking about corruption and stuff that happens in this country. I was overhearing some of the things which you were saying about, statecraft and how difficult it is. I mean, ask yourself, in this country, we have this thing about people stealing everything, stealing billions, stealing trillions. I mean, just stealing everything. And they are still looking for an extra million, 10,000. And you're wondering, I mean, how much is enough in this country? How much is enough? Because every time we read stories about corruption in this country, I mean, you're shocked. You hear 400 million, then he went to this other place, he stole 50 million, then, he went this other place and he did this, then he's now even chasing some woman's land, then now he's even trying to take some, widowed property, or then he's even now trying to take somebody's company, and you're wondering how much is enough in this country. It just tells you when God is not front and center of our lives, we will keep chasing this thing. I mean, and that's what the Bible calls it, chasing after the wind. We'll just keep chasing it. There's a joke, that goes that the best gift to give to a millionaire is another million. It's never enough. But in God, it can be enough. In God, we can fail to have all that, like the rich young ruler, fail to have all that and still be content. And I believe that the key here is fulfillment. That in God and only in God, and I said this in finishing, only in God there is fulfillment. There's fulfillment. I think the word fulfillment should be used very sparingly. I think that's a very rich word and a very sacred word, sacrosanct. I mean, it's really sacred. Fulfillment should be used very just being fulfilled. It's more than kutosheleka. I think there has to be a much more better. The nuance in the word is just, it's big. It's big. It's rich. Okay. It's more than being satisfied. It's more than being content. Um, it is Paul saying things like, I have learned how to be abased and I have learned how to abound. And, I have learned not to have, I've learned not to, to have and not to have. And then he says, and I'm okay. And I'm okay. Okay. So it is God who anchors us. I think I would like to leave it there so that at least we can mull over it and just think about it and of course read. So the entire book of Ecclesiastes is a very easy book to read because it's extremely straightforward. So thank you guys.